The Divided White House. The Accusation of Minab's Mother. Fiction disclaimer. This work is entirely fiction and has no relation whatsoever to real people, organizations, or events. Sanai Takaichi's statement, "I believe Donald is the only one who can bring peace and prosperity to the world," is a fictional quote based on actual words spoken at the beginning of the US-Japan summit on March 19, 2026. However, all subsequent developments, characters' actions, and depictions of the international situation are solely from the author's imagination and are not intended as real-world predictions, criticisms, or prophecies. Readers, please enjoy this strictly as political satire and entertainment. Chapter 1. The Pride of a Professional. Flashback, 2014, the freezing winter of Sochi. While Western nations decided to boycott due to Russia's human rights issues, Shinzo Abe appeared at the opening ceremony and firmly shook hands with President Putin. Diplomacy is the solitary work of protecting Japan's position, even if it means sipping mud. He believed so. 2019, Tehran. It was the same when he faced Supreme Leader Khamenei, caught between the United States and Iran, playing a role that only Japan could fulfill. At the extreme limit of tension, he chose his words without losing his smile, observing the other party's reactions, but never conceding a single millimeter of Japan's national interest. That is the realism of a professional. Meanwhile, at a golf course in Florida, riding in a cart alongside Trump, he smiled and said, "Donald is my friend." At a supporters' rally, he could have said that to hype things up. However, for a nation's prime minister to publicly deify an individual is diplomatic suicide. Abe was not that foolish. His eyes were never truly smiling. Chapter 2. The Beginning of the Collapse. March 19, 2026, the White House. In the Oval Office, cameras and reporters from all over the world are lined up. Sanai Takaichi gazed at Trump with feverish eyes. "I believe that Donald, you are the only one who can bring peace and prosperity to the world." Trump leaned back in satisfaction and gave a thumbs up to the cameras. At that moment, the air froze. Behind Takaichi stood a dim shadow, the ghost of Shinzo Abe. He let out a deep, despairing sigh. "Miss Takaichi, you got the subject wrong. This isn't a cult rally for your supporters. That loyalty you just pledged to Donald has instantly turned to ashes the trust Japan spent decades building with the Middle East." Chapter 3. The Shadow of Minab. A single woman emerged, almost crawling, from the shadow of the golden curtains. Wearing a black chador, her face was stained with tears and soot. It was Fatima. In her hand was a small, scorched name tag. It belonged to her daughter, Zinab. "Peace? Do you know that my daughter is buried beneath the peace you just spoke of while licking that man's shoes?" Takaichi trembled slightly, but kept her smile. Fatima's voice continued quietly, but sharply. February 28, Minab. This man's missile fell on Zinab's head while she was in class. 168 children died, staining their math notebooks bright red. And yet you call the perpetrator of that act the sole savior. Chapter 4. The Cruel Mirror. Fatima steps right in front of Takaichi. Trump cannot see her. He is simply cracking an insulting joke saying, "The attack on Pearl Harbor was a surprise attack, wasn't it?" Abe's ghost whispers, "Listen, Ms. Takaichi. Her voice is the voice of more than half the world. Do you realize how much your lip service has isolated Japan?" Fatima's eyes pierce through Takaichi's consciousness. "Prime Minister, do you not understand the feelings of a mother whose child was murdered?" That's right. From the very beginning, you never possessed a warm, beating heart to understand such feelings. The mood of the man in front of you is heavier than the lives of 168 young girls. You are not the leader of a nation, but merely the fanatical follower of a single man." Takaichi's expression twists in pain for the first time. It was an accusation thrust from the depths of hell, exposing her ethical deficiency as a national leader. Chapter 5. The Silent Ending. Trump announces, "Next item on the agenda," and Fatima's figure vanishes like mist. Takaichi shakes hands with Trump, but there is no feeling in her hands. Only Zinab's soot-stained name tag, which had fallen to the floor, stood out bizarrely black against the golden carpet. Abe's ghost turned his back and said quietly, "Diplomacy is the work of those who know the weight of words. You have sacrificed Japan's dignity, along with your own pride, to Donald. It is a pity, Ms. Takaichi." Chapter 6. The Hell of Returning Home. Narita Airport, Terminal 1. Amidst a pouring night rain, an exclusive car glides up to the gate. A crowd of hundreds had surged forward. Opposition lawmakers, the Iranian Victims' Family Support Group, Voice of Minab, anti-war NGOs, and Iranian women living in Japan. Their placards gleam in the wet rain. Only Donald? Give back Zinab's life. Does the Prime Minister call the blood of 168 young girls peace? Former Prime Minister Abe would never have engaged in such sycophantic diplomacy. Fatima's figure appears once again. Is it reality or an illusion? She holds up the scorched name tag and lends her voice to the support group's microphone. "Prime Minister, you called my daughter's shoes a price. Now that you have landed at the airport, can you finally see reality? I came to Japan just to see your face one more time. Is your peace meant for licking the shoes of the man who killed my Zinab?" Takaichi stops just before stepping out of the car. Her expression is as hard as stone, but only her eyes are darting slightly. Abe's ghost speaks heavily from behind. "Ms. Takaichi, this is a public place. The loyalty you pledged at the White House has now returned to confront the Japanese public. It might have been forgiven at a supporters' rally, but in front of the world and the citizens, those words, you have strangled yourself with them. I never wished for a future like this." Takaichi gets into the car in silence. All that can be seen through the window are 168 small white bouquets beaten by the rain, and a poster printed with Zinab's smile. Sirens wail, and the car drives away. Chapter 7. The warm reception of a foolish envoy. The White House, a waiting room after the summit. Trump sinks into the sofa in satisfaction, and J.D. Vance quietly approaches. "Trump, J.D., that Takaichi woman is the best, isn't she? Saying only Donald. No one else calls me by my first name like that." Vance, quietly but coldly, "Mr. President, her remarks have ignited a fire in Iran." Prime Minister Takaichi said, "I believe Donald is the only one who can bring peace and prosperity to the world. Because of this delusion, Iran will no longer allow tankers bound for Japan to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. It is a statement that spectacularly damages their national interest. The world is watching and thinking. Even Shinzo Abe, who might praise a cult leader at a cult rally, had a better sense of time and place." Trump smirks. "Trump, then that's great. Japan won't get Middle Eastern crude oil and will have no choice but to buy American oil at a high price. My shale oil will sell like hotcakes." Vance, narrowing his eyes. "There is an old Chinese proverb, Mr. President. Give a warm reception to a foolish envoy. Treat a capable one coldly. If the enemy's envoy is an idiot, welcome them warmly and praise them. If they are excellent, treat them coldly and make them fall. By doing so, the enemy country will destroy itself." Trump pauses for a moment. Vance, indifferently, Prime Minister Takaichi was warmly received as a foolish envoy. With her only Donald, Japan has turned Iran into an enemy and will suffer the most from a Hormuz blockade. And they will have no choice but to buy American oil at premium prices. It's a perfect deal, Mr. President. Trump bursts into loud laughter. However, Vance's eyes are not smiling. A heavy silence falls over the waiting room. Final chapter. The stones in the graveyard. The screen fades to black. A row of 168 small stones lined up in the desolate graveyard of Minab. They overlap with the rain-soaked bouquets at Narita Airport. The final sigh of Abe's ghost. Diplomacy is the work of those who know the weight of words. And, Mother of Zinab, your pain will continue to question Japan from now on. The end.